I had Logan Paul on my podcast.
Would Logan do it with me?
Logan would kick your ass, I think. You're riding a fantastic wave. How could you not make some mistakes along the way?
How can you be for small government and then have the government dictate all these things in your personal life, right?
Exactly.
You idiots. You got it completely wrong.
Can't you just wake up and stop? I was walking down the hallway like a darted bull with a needle sticking out of my ass.
Tell me the 5 steps to the gain to the point where someone like you would say, I want this guy in my life. I want to help this guy.
Hey, Jordan Belfort here, the Wolf of Wall Street, and once again, I am here in the new, vastly improved Wolf's Den, where from this point forward, you can join me once each week to get anything and everything you can ever possibly need or want out of a success-oriented, sales-oriented, business-oriented, and of course, laugh out loud, funny, at times totally irreverent podcast from yours truly, the real Wolf of Wall Street. So, as you're probably aware by now, the new format we've created here is basically a hybrid, where I start off each episode with about 20 to 30 minutes of myself going full on, where I'm discussing one particular topic, and that topic could be anything from sales to business to current events to pop culture, all the way to the internal mindset of success, meaning your inner game, which is what happens right up here between your ears before you ever go out into the world and take action. Remember, all success starts up here, not in the outer world. It starts up here. Your ability to visualize certain things, act certain ways, believe certain things about yourself and society at large in the world, the human condition, right? And then, after I do my 20, 30 minutes, I will bring on a guest, sometimes, not always, but I'll sometimes bring on a guest afterwards who will do a crystallization of what we just talked about, throw in their 2 cents, and just so you know, I'm only bringing on guests that are awesome, or else I'll just talk myself, because I love to fucking talk, and that's the Wolf's Den. So let's get right to it here. Today's topic is pretty much the inner game of success, but I want to talk about also the human condition, about what the fuck is going on in this crazy, mixed up, and seemingly, rapidly devolving world where we're going to hell in a handbasket for a lot of reasons. And one of them, I think, is this obsession, and I would say idiotic obsession, with political correctness. Nothing bothers me more than this whole idea that you as an individual are so fucking sensitive and so easily offended and so just destroyed by what someone else says about you or thinks about you. Now, again, I think that we should be sensitive, right? There's no reason you want to hurt people on purpose. And words, yes, they do have power. But one thing that I learned when I was a recovering drug addict, and I went to this place called the Karen Foundation up in Pennsylvania, right? And that was kind of weird, eclectic way of looking at, recovery. Recovery meaning when you're a post-drug addict trying to recover and live normally again, right? Is that so much of why people do drugs is to try to quiet the negative feelings, the bad emotions, and how, basically you do that as a coping mechanism. And one of the things they teach you there, and I just, I don't agree with a lot of the things they teach you. There's some really wacky beliefs they have. But one thing that struck me as being absolutely true is that no one can make you feel a certain way. So when you utter those words, he made me feel so, you make me feel so bad, you really hurt my, just so you understand that when you think that way, when you utter those words, what you are doing is giving away your power as a human being. No one can make you feel any way that you don't want to feel. In a vacuum. It means the reality is, someone says something to you, right? And they hurt your feelings. Really? Or did you allow their words to hurt your feelings? No one can make you feel bad. People could say things, and you can either allow them to not impact you at a very deep level, or you can allow someone else's words, someone else's stupidity, someone else's limiting beliefs or pain impact your life and destroy you. In other words, you're in a fight with someone that you love or someone you care about. Even a boss says to you, you're such an asshole. You did this wrong or that wrong. You're a loser. You'll never amount to anything. Okay, well, that does what? Hurts your feelings? Does it really have to? You can't allow someone else's stupidity and pain and sharp tongue cut to you as a human being, or else you're going to be living a really disempowered life where you'll be going up and down. And it's, you feel based on your last interaction of people around you. If people are nice to you, you feel good. If people say kind things to you, you feel good inside. If people say negative things to you or they say hurtful things, you become hurt and disempowered. You have to be fucking tougher than that, because there are a lot of assholes in the world, and people are going to say things that you don't like. And here's the thing. The truth is, at least for me in my life, and I think I speak for most people, is that the only time that people's words hurt me is when they come from people who I truly love and care about. I don't care what random idiot haters say about me online. I should do this or that. I'm the worst person, the best person. Great. Okay, it's noise to me, right? If I look at it, I look at it empirically and logically and say, what can I take away from that message? Maybe to change my own message, to try to get more people to understand where I'm coming from. But I don't let the people who I don't know, people I don't love, I don't let their words impact me on an emotional level. I don't care about them enough. The only people that can hurt me are those that I love. And even then, over the years, I've learned, and you need to learn, that even those that you love and those that you care about and those that you trust, they're going to say stupid shit from time to time. They have their own inner demons. They lose their temper. They say things out of their own pain. And many people, in fact, and I've been in relationships like this in the past, I think we probably all have if we've been in relationships, is that, it's very common that when someone gets hurt really badly, their gut reaction is, I want to hurt the other person so they feel just like me. I want to hurt this person because in that moment, they might still love you. They might be great people still. You get it? So it doesn't make them terrible. In that moment, when their emotional brain, that reptilian brain takes over, their strategy for trying to make themselves feel better is, I want to hurt this person as badly as I possibly can because I want them to hurt like I'm hurting right now. They should feel what I'm feeling right now. When people say negative, hurtful, terrible stuff to you, 99% of the time it's because they are in that pain. And when they say misery loves company, well, yeah, it's true, but pain loves company as much as anything else. So they want you to hurt just like them. Doesn't mean they're bad people, and it doesn't mean you still can't love them or be in relationships with them. You can, by the way, but you have to realize this, number one, that when someone is saying those terrible, hurtful things to you, that it's because they're in pain. That's a reflection of their own pain, and it's that natural gut reaction. I get hit, I'm going to hit back. I've gotten hurt. I want to hurt back equally as bad to the people that hurt me. And to that, in that vein, so to speak, you have to say, well, what was your part in hurting that person? What did you say to that person that hurt them? Now, watch, to see how this runs counter to what I started saying that people really can't hurt you, but in the real world, this is what happens. We allow other people's words and other people's opinions about us, not only to hurt us, but taking it one step further, once they hurt us, it starts the seed of a limiting belief about ourselves and maybe about that other person. You have a child, and every day of this child's life, from the time he was a year old enough to talk and maybe remember some stuff at 2 or 3, his mommy and his daddy looked at him and said, you'll never amount to anything. You're not worthy of unconditional love. You're not that smart. You're only going to be average. Everything you do is screwed up. You screw up all the time. What an it. Well, a lot of kids grow up with maybe not quite that bad of a upbringing, but many are close. What do you think those kids feel inside every single day as adults when they're out trying to succeed in the workplace or in life in general? They have that belief in the pit of their stomach, their very core, that they're not worth it, they're not worthy of love, they'll never amount to anything. You take that kid and you project out 30 years in the future, far and few between are the ones that actually will succeed at a very high level unless somewhere along the way they met someone like me or some other great mentors out there. There are others as well who will help these people overcome those limiting beliefs, quiet down those voices, and replace them with the absolute truth, which is that every human being out there, including you, is not only worthy of love because you are, but you're capable of absolute fucking greatness. You are. I can't tell you how many people over the years I have coached and mentored. Now, when I was younger, when I ran my companies, right, I would see these people every single day, and I'd be intervening in their lives, in person, hands on, and I watched the growth, and I saw the success. I watched these people flourish like wilted flowers that never had what they needed to sprout up, meaning love, support, the right beliefs inserted in them. And yes, when I say inserted, the beliefs that you have, a great many get inserted in you. Beliefs get inserted in you by people that say things to you, by experiences that you have, by simply things you observe, experiences you observe. I mean, it could not even mean that you did it yourself. You saw something happen, and your takeaway from that caused a limiting belief to form. I tell a story about how when I was 5 years old, and I was maybe 6 years old, I was in nursery, kindergarten, and my teacher, Mrs. Roskin, is like plumpish lady, right? I'm sure she's dead for a long time by now, or in this world, dead is a bad word probably. She's passed on, okay? No, she's fucking dead. It's been a long time now. Nice lady, Mrs. Roskin, looked like a penguin, right? Mrs. Roskin was walking around the room trying to teach us how to draw. And I'm like 5 or 6 years old. And she puts a bowl of fruit in the center, right? And we're all around the tables around there, right? And she says, okay, everybody, I want you to draw this bowl of fruit. And we all had, pad of paper and our own crayons, right? And I started drawing. And I'm drawing. And I'm saying, oh, this is okay. I'm doing okay, I think, right? And I look to my right, and I'm like, oh, shit. The girl next to me to my right, like, she drew what looked like a photograph of the fruit bowl. I was like, holy shit. And I look at mine, and I'm like, uh-oh. It actually looks like I sneezed on the paper. It was pretty bad, right? And it didn't really look like that bowl of fruit, right? I looked to my left, and there was another girl, and hers was pretty damn good too. So Mrs. Roskin's walking around, and she gets to the first girl, and she's like, oh my God, Jeannie, you are such a talented young artist. You're going to be the next Van Gogh or Rembrandt. And little Jeannie is fairly beaming, right? Oh my God, I'm so great. And then she walks up, comes around to me, and she looks, and she puts her hand on my shoulder. She goes, well, Jordan, I think you ain't kiss your art career goodbye. Stick to your speaking, because I was always, believe it or not, I was already really verbal at that point. It was like the guy that always stood up to speak. She goes, but you're not going to be an artist. In that moment, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be an artist. And do you know, to this point forward, that one instant set a chain of events going that to this day, I cannot draw a straight line. Now, you hear those words? I just said it without thinking. I cannot draw a straight line. I am the worst artist in the world. Really? Is that true? Or is that just a belief? See, what happened was that when Mrs. Roskin said that to me, in that instant, I felt bad. And I said, oh, I'm not good at this. So what happened? That experience, I took an action. I drew a bowl of fruit. From that action, I got a result. And based on that result, which in this case was pretty lousy, right? Mrs. Roskin said to me, you're never going to be an artist, Jordan. Kiss your art career goodbye. And that forms what? A belief. Jordan is not naturally gifted in art. I'm never going to do well at this. And it doesn't feel good because people laugh when I draw. So what happens a week later? Next time we go to art class. Again, now it's art period, right? Okay, I want you to draw this. Already, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I suck at this. I get a bad feeling. I'm certainly not going to practice it. So now when I go to draw, I'm almost doing it with half a heart, and I'm already nervous, and my nerves kick in, my hand is shaking, and my result is what? It's even worse. I look at my art, and Mrs. Ross goes, well, there you go. As I suspected, Jordan, your art career is never going to happen, right? So I get a worse result. My belief gets reinforced. And that circle, that cycle of the limiting belief forming from a negative result and then reinforcing itself by cutting off my aptitude. Essentially, my ability now actually gets reduced because, number one, I get nervous when I try to perform the task. Number two, we don't typically try things that we don't think we're good at. We say, what's the point? I'm just not good at it. So I shy, I don't practice. Next time I get a worse result, and then a worse result, and reinforce itself until you get to the point where I am today, where for my whole life I shied away from ever trying to draw anything or feeling good about it, and I say, I can't draw. Now think about the fucking insanity of this. Just think about this. Do you really think that I was missing an art gene? That I was incapable of learning how to draw? Of course not. In fact, many years later, I'll tell you a great story. I'm watching TV when cable TV first was popular, and then this guy with an afro who used to do this whole thing, hey, watch, this is my world, and watch how you can draw this. And he did this shit where, like, he'd draw, like, bushes and lakes and trees and mountains, and it's like, and he made it seem effortless. And he taught you how to do it. You know how? With a strategy. There's a strategy for art. Yes, there are Van Goghs. There are naturally gifted Mozarts. There are naturally Jordan Belforts for selling that never had to try to learn to sell. You had God-given gifts that allowed you to perform instantly and amazingly at a particular task. Yes, we get those. We get those gifts from God or nature, whichever you believe. The point is that the rest of these things can all be learnt by strategy. By someone slowing the process down and saying, okay, you don't know how to draw a fruit? Let me show you how. It starts by this. And just like that, you learn a step-by-step formula to complete this task and do it well. And then you start to practice that, and you practice that. And next thing you know, you're pretty damn freaking good at it. Now, am I ever going to be Van Gogh? Probably not. Probably I don't possess that natural talent in the same way that when I teach tens of thousands of people, or now at this point millions of people, to become expert salespeople, are they ever going to be me? Probably not as good as me, no. But what I can do, and what you can do in whatever skills that you need to possess to achieve success, whatever success means to you in terms of living an empowered life, that could mean learning how to speak. It could be learning how to close, when by the way, closing is a required course. It could be learning how to write a code. I mean, becoming a basic coder. It could be learning marketing techniques. It could be learning anything or everything that you want. Playing an instrument, learning how to date. How do you talk to the opposite sex? Do you know they teach this shit? They actually teach this. I'm sure you probably heard of it. There's pickup artists out there that teach you, and some of them are very unethical, but some are very ethical. Some actually show you a very ethical way of how to engage with the opposite sex, and it's a system. Now, many of us don't need a system to talk to the opposite sex or the same sex, whichever you want. Doesn't matter. But some of us do, and there's nothing wrong with learning it if you need it. If you need to learn a certain skill to live an empowered life, what do? You fucking learn it. Almost everything out there that you need to possess in terms of a skill set is available to you by a mentor or an online course or by going to school, whatever that might be. The problem is that so many of you are going through life right now and you're actually lacking the cornerstone skills that you need to succeed at the highest level. Because you've been brainwashed into thinking that you are who you are. That you're set to live a life that whatever was set in stone from the beginning, those first 5 or 10 years. That's my life. That's who I am. It's based on the beliefs that you have about yourself. What you think you're capable of. What you think you can achieve. We don't try things that we don't think we're capable of succeeding at. We don't try to shoot above our level of possible achievement. We cap ourselves. We don't try if we don't think we'll get the result. We say, why do all the work? What's the point? Many times when you're thinking about taking action, you're thinking about going for it in life, whether it's starting a business, becoming a top producer, going out there and just meeting someone and falling in love again. You say to yourself, what's the point? Because when you think about it, when you project that out in your mind, and your mind's eye runs that movie, you say, I don't really see myself succeeding. So why do all the work? Why put myself out there? Why take the risk? Why invest the money? Why take out a loan? Why go to school at night? Why buy that course? Why attend that seminar? Why go out to a party and mingle with other people when it's never going to amount to anything anyway? Yeah, maybe there's other people because, when I guess they've had success, that's their lot in life. But that's not me. That's all based on beliefs that you have. The beliefs of what you think you're capable of. How you see yourself. Your capability beliefs. And guess what? Here's the irony. In many cases, it's true. You're not capable of achieving massive success, and you're not capable of greatness. And the operative word there is now. Meaning, based on what you currently know, yeah, maybe you lack certain cornerstone skills that are required to achieve success. So your brain in those cases is almost acting as like a self-protective mechanism. It says, you know what? I don't really own this shit. Like, I don't really know how to close. Listen, if you can't close the deal, if you can't sell, if you can't be a hammer, you can't close, good fucking luck trying to really get ahead in life. It is the single most important skill, bar none. The ability to close the deal. And without that skill, without possessing that skill, your brain says, you know what, maybe I should just kind of stay pat because at the end of the day, I don't really have what it takes to succeed, so why do all the work? I'm not going to get the result I want anyway. That's what happens. And that is why when I teach people persuasion, like to really close, and it's easy to learn. I teach people from all over the world, from all walks of life, and anyone can learn it, right? And that's why that when they learn that one skill, it's like opens up a universe of possibility. Not because it's the only skill you need, because there are others as well. But without that one skill, it almost acts as like a governor, a damper on your life, stopping you from charging forward when you should and causing you to pull back when you shouldn't. So there is this relationship between the inner game, what happens up here, your success mindset, and the possession of outer world skill sets. And it starts again with beliefs. And so many of the beliefs that you have right now that are limiting you in life, that are stopping you from charging forward, that are stopping you from really being happy, from really living a life that just turns you fucking on, and you deserve it. Okay, God, this weekend was just awful what happened with Kobe Bryant. Awful. I actually shed tears. I did. I'm not usually emotional about this stuff. People die all the time, right? But that one, I shed tears. You know why? Here was a guy that was like just the most robust, most full of life, zestful man that accomplished so much and lived at such a high level, both meaning his mindset, his commitment to success, his commitment to excellence, and the amount of work he was willing to do in the real world to possess the skills required. I heard a story that when Kobe missed a shot once after an important game, he spent 5 hours that night, would not leave until he hit 10,000 shots like that. And he was already the best player in the world. Greatness like that, at that level, is the combination of natural ability, mindset, and massive skill set. They're always linked. Given the fact, think this through now, why am I connecting these dots? I'll tell you why. Watch how it all comes together. Given the fact that our beliefs can literally undermine us and be the silent and at times not so silent killers of success that literally stop us, impede us from getting what we want in life, from living life before at any moment it could be snuffed out, like it was with Kobe. What a terrible thing. But at any moment, all of this could end. How could you go through life now with one more second not trying to at least be the best you could be? To overcome those limiting beliefs. To not allow yourself to be subject to the words and whims of other people. This is when it all comes full circle. Because if the beliefs that we have are so critical in deciding whether or not we actually do take action, and anything that someone else says to you can form the seed of a limiting belief. How can you be that fucking sensitive and succeed? Stop buying into this nonsense of political correctness. It's bullshit. It's not true. It's some weird invention that's being thrust upon us through, I don't know exactly what, but there's some weird silent hand at work here trying to make you think that, yeah, it's terrible when someone says something bad about any one group of people or any one person, and that's enough to either ostracize that person from society, or you have such a weak constitution yourself that you are going to go up or down based on what the last person or group of people said to you. You can't be that sensitive. You have to know who you are, know what you're capable of and what you're worth without it being subject to someone else calling you an asshole or this or an idiot or a douchebag or a cunt. Seriously, that's a dirty word, right? Cunt. You know, guess what? In Australia, they use the word cunt like it's nothing. It's like an animal. A kangaroo's a cunt. When I went to Australia and they used that with the C word, I was like, what the? I was like, oh my. To me, it hit me in the gut when I heard that. It was like a word you don't utter. That's a bad word. Or is it? Is cunt the bad word? Guess what? Now down there, they think of it like women are saying the word cunt. It's just a word. Just a word. I'm not saying we should go around using words that are inappropriate. It's not what I'm saying. But the fact that you could be that weak-minded of a fool to let a word destroy your inner constitution says something about you, the fact that you're being brainwashed. Because you're not that weak. You're capable of more. And as long as you're going to let things like that bother you, and you're going to buy into this bullshit narrative being thrust upon society right now about what people say is more important than what they feel and do, you're never going to get ahead in life. You'll be a fucking yo-yo going up and down, side to side, based on what the last person that you either loved and cared about, or like even stranger said to you, is enough to send you into a tailspin. How could you be that fucking sensitive and move through life and really believe you can be empowered? You got to be tougher. You have to have more fucking resiliency than that. You have to be able to take criticism and take things that you don't like and just say, I don't give a shit what they think, and you move on. Until you can do that, all of this talk about success and forward advancement, it's all fucking nonsense. Because I promise you, will get knocked down 10,000 times on the way towards trying to grab that brass ring. The world is not a safe fucking space. It's not. The world is not safe. The world is full of assholes. The world is full of incompetent morons. Trust me, I know. I meet them all the time. People lie to you. They let you down. They tell you one thing and do another. And as long as you're willing to let those people dictate how you feel inside, you don't have much power. You gave up your own personal power by doing that. You have to know who the fuck you are and that you are worthy of success, massive success, worthy of unconditional love, and nobody, and I mean nobody, can take that from you. And that's the bottom fucking line. And my next guest here on today's podcast, you might not like this man. He might offend you. You might not agree with everything he has to say. I don't agree with everything he says, but I respect him because he says what's on his mind and takes shit from nobody. He also has a great track record. In fact, an incredible track record, it would seem. I haven't checked everyone out, but I don't doubt what he says because he's a man of great conviction. He's a man who's been responsible for creating a lot of success in a lot of other people, especially young people. So in that regard, we're similar. So when we come back from this very, very short break, I'm going to bring on a man who's going to freak you the fuck out because people have been known to actually piss in their pants and actually shit themselves when they attend his seminars. And I think that's pretty cool, by the way. I think I've had some people piss, never shit, okay? Either way, it's all good. So stay tuned. When we come back, you're going to meet a man who is the real deal when it comes to really saying shit as it is. And he's a brilliant guy, too, and has made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for himself and others. Stay tuned. We'll be right back shortly.
And there's not that many hardline guys on the planet. And it's just unfortunate. But we've gotten used to it. It's become our comfort zone being not held accountable. Because most people don't want to be held accountable. They want to be able to do whatever the hell they want when they want. And true leadership is me getting that person to do what I want them to do when the fuck I want them to do it.
All right, so we're back now, and as promised, I told you I had a guest who was someone I had massive respect for, someone I agree with in almost all his viewpoints, and who's as spirited as me, and sometimes even more spirited than me, colorful figure, super successful, forced to be reckoned with, Mr. Dan Pena. How are you, my friend?
My pleasure.
And you're looking handsome as hell and dapper. Is that part of
This
your
is my
persona?
uniform. This is me.
And is that in terms
It has
of,
been for 40 years.
and I'm a big believer in the first impression and what that states about you and positioning yourself as an expert in your field. And that's just obviously when you see someone put together like that, it has a huge impact, right?
Correct. You have two times to make a first impression. First is how you look. Second is when you open your mouth. Before you put your foot in it. I mean, so you've got really two times to make a first impression.
So there's so many things we could talk about, but as I said to you, with the format of my podcast, I framed a certain topic, which now I really want to dig into because I think you're like probably one of the most foremost experts in the world. And that is the human condition, why things are the way they are right now with political correctness, social norms, which I think is a fucking disaster, outright disaster. I hate it. And I'm not quite sure what to make of it in terms of where is it going, but I'd like to know what your take is on like how all this insanity started, where it's about feelings and hurting feelings.
Political correctness, in my judgment, is a manifestation of lack of self-esteem. When I grew up, I had an alpha male dad, superhero from the Second World War and the Korean War, who looked like, he had a 56-inch chest, a 30-inch waist, and he had 18-inch arms, and he'd never lifted weights, okay? And and all his buddies, if you will, from the Second World War and the Korean War looked more or less like him. And they allegedly, and in reality, they saved the generation from all
They
the
call
bad
that the
stuff.
greatest generation,
Correct,
right?
correct. And so I thought everybody was like that. When I went out into business and I made a lot of money, and then when I got thrown out of the company I founded, what was I going to do? And I thought, well, I'll go back and teach university. This is a long-winded answer to your question. And I taught university for $1, an honors class, and I was really dismayed. And so then I said, well, I'll coach the meatheads, the kids. And because I thought everybody had some sort of self-esteem. Now, when I was at Bear Stearns, almost everybody had self-esteem at some level, okay?
You were in New York at the time,
Yeah,
Investors?
yeah.
What years was that?
Yeah, it was 77 through 81.
So you know Ace Greenberg?
Ace hired me. Cy Lewis hired me. Cy Lewis himself. And I was the most successful, non-Jew in the firm. And they always said that I was Sephardic, And they said, you got to be Jewish. And it's all right, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. But they were pushy guys, and we weren't the white shoe guys, like the Goldman Sachs or those kind of guys. We were pushy guys that got shit done. And so, but there I was still surrounded with guys that had a lot of self-confidence and a lot of self-esteem. And so I was led to believe that self-esteem wasn't such a rare commodity or quantity, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But in reality, we both know it is.
Yeah.
And self-confidence, self-esteem, etc. And so the world today is political correctness, back to your original question, is because we want people to like us. We want to fit in. We don't want to stand out. In a day when somebody will commit suicide on Facebook because they're disliked is beyond my comprehension. I can't understand it. I just don't. And why the parent of the kid that kills himself doesn't go kill his parents is beyond me. There's certain things worth dying for, and that's one of them in my judgment. And but it's getting worse and worse and worse.
To me, the whole thing started going wrong when they said everyone should get a fucking trophy.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
I don't think everyone should get a fucking trophy. I think there's winners, there's losers. It's a lot better to win than to lose. You want to lose with grace and win with grace, but not everyone gets a fucking trophy. right?
My kids, we pulled them out of group athletics just at the cusp of that when they started giving everybody a participation ribbon.
What the hell? I mean, like, it's the whole, I think, and listen, you have to always say, well, if I bash certain people, they're going to cut off my social media because they run these platforms. But the fact is, I think a lot of this is like revenge of the nerds. So you're saying that you had this like alpha male father and you thought the world was like survival of the fittest based
Correct.
on physicality. And then what happened was, and also perseverance, and like, emotional fortitude. But somewhere, because of the digital age, it changed. And people that were the nerds growing up that were picked last on sports teams that didn't get the girl, they were able to sort of rise to the top financially, and they want to rewrite those rules now to make sure no one ever feels the pain they felt from being left out. This is my theory, by the way, part of it, of how it's gotten so out of whack. It's become survival of the unfittest because the people that are sort of setting the trend of the ability to control the flow of information were those people, and they want to make sure, and their one, a just world is one where there are no people where physicality no longer matters. It only matters about what you maybe are like, performing intellectually or whatnot. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I just spoke at University of Pennsylvania, arguably one of the better schools in the country, maybe the world. When I tell the kids, how many kids in here consider themselves an alpha male? Nobody raises their hand. I said, but 98% of all high performers.
No.
Yes. Nobody raises their hand. Nobody. Zero. I ask the same question every fucking time. Nobody raises their hand. I've been at Oxford, University of Pennsylvania, University of Toronto, you name it, and nobody raises their hand.
Before you continue, do you know that Gillette commercial that they ran with the whole thing with the toxic masculinity
Correct.
thing? I fucking threw out my Gillette razor, and to this day, I never will use a Gillette razor again because that whole thing. It's like the brainwashing of it. It's just
It is.
And no one.
No. But we have a test on my website, and we have a 98.5% failure rate. One of the questions, the first or second question is, what would you do if somebody spit in your wife's face? Almost 100%, there's 5 answers, potential answers, and the most used answer is, I would try to
Beat the shit out of them is
Okay,
the only logical answer.
No. They say, I would try to ascertain his state of mind when he spit in her face. Nobody says, pick up a fucking pipe and beat him to death.
Right, basically.
Yeah, but nobody. When I would say nobody, I mean nobody. Nobody. So we have 98.5% fail the test. And I'm going up and down the aisles, ranting and raving. Don't you see
The
what's
problem
wrong
in
about
that? Right, there's a problem
and
there.
And the kids go,
Oh, no.
They don't.
Yeah, they're brainwashed.
yeah, they don't know. My judgment, they don't care anymore.
When do you think the brainwashing begins? How early do you think it begins?
Oh,
these
well,
days?
self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years of life. Like the Spartans used to take the kids away from their parents at 7 or 8 years. There was a reason for that. The Catholic Church, and I was raised a Catholic, and the Catholic has its hand up so far up my ass, I'm surprised you don't see the Pope coming out my lips. But I'm just a good Catholic altar boy from many years ago. The Catholic Church says, you give us your children the first 7 or 8 years, and we will own them. That's part of the doctrine of the Catholic Church because they know that's when self-esteem is built. Now, when a kid's 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months, unless he's shit his pants, they're happy. 2 years, 5 years, they're happy. 7 years, it starts to change because you are who helped to raise you. Who raises you? A mom, sometimes a dad if he's around, an older brother, sister, and a grandparent. What do they know about high performance? Nothing, normally, nothing. And if love and religion got the job done, we wouldn't have all the problems we've got. I mean, love doesn't get the job done, and even though I was raised a devout Catholic, Catholicism or Judaism or Allah or whoever doesn't get the job done. And so it starts at a very young age. And now it's promoted in the schools. And I asked the kids, how many have you been in a school fight, as we were discussing earlier, a schoolyard brawl? Okay.
Yeah.
2, 3 kids raised their hand out of 400. Now, I give these talks at the schools for free.
They didn't go to my school.
Okay. I know.
In Queens, New York.
I'm from East L.A. I'm from the Barrio, not too far from here. And how many of you ever been spanked? 20, 30, 40 kids raise their hand. How many of you have ever been yelled at? 50 people out of 400 raise their hand. And so now it's socially unacceptable to whack your kids. I was raised, spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, I'm not saying all the beatings I got from my dad, and he beat me like a rented mule. He just did. If the nuns beat me, the priest beat me, and he came home from out of town, then he beat me just because the nuns and the priests and the school education system was always right. And now there's no discipline. I was at another interview a while back, and young kids like this. First thing I noticed when I walked in, young kids, and they're all nobody was on time. The engineer wasn't there. This, that, and nobody got mad. Nobody.
My son says, "Do I go crazy when people are late?" I go fucking crazy.
Yeah, but they didn't get yelled at. No, everybody just said, "Hey, dude." No, bro. That's the word they use. And I said, "What the fuck does that mean, bro?" I don't know. And I said, and so finally we wound up getting started 45 minutes late. 45 fucking minutes late.
You have no idea. It's like my pet peeve. I
Yeah,
go
and the kids just thought it was all cool.
Yeah.
It was all cool, and it's not cool.
You know what I used to say? So you have your language paths when you speak. You say a word, it just comes back. I always say, these kids that I teach a system of sales called the straight line, right? And I used to say when I invented it, these kids would come to me and they were from families where they were never told by their parents they were capable of greatness. And going further, even the greatness they had in the nationals had been almost conditioned at them, beaten out of them from day they were born. First from their parents, then by their school teachers, by the media, their own friends. By the time they came into my boardroom at 18, they were like conditioned to be just average, to survive, not to thrive, right? Why do you think, though? I mean, like, for me, it's one thing I really struggle with is because I really try to instill like success-oriented thinking and positive mental fortitude in my kids. Why do you think? You think they just don't know any better? They think it's right?
Well, you said that it was beat into them. They should have been beaten, but they weren't beaten.
Conditioned into them.
Conditioned, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like Pavlov's dog. I mean, you jolt them and they react. But the kids now don't want to be jolted. They don't want to be jolted, and they feel entitled. And I say, entitled to what? You haven't done a goddamn thing.
Do you think raising a girl is different than raising a boy?
Yes, a little. But if our daughter was here right now, she's 33. She's a senior executive.
She got whacked?
And she said, my daddy treats everybody the same, like shit. I treated her like her two older brothers. I didn't consider it like shit. But I mean, I was strict. I made them accountable. The kids don't want to be held accountable now, okay? And if they miss a deadline or they miss being on work on time, they got an excuse. They say traffic. Well, leave earlier, you fucking moron. I mean, what do you mean? I don't give a fuck about traffic.
Exactly. Let me ask you this. I was giving you my theory, which is like part of it. This drives me crazy, this whole thing, right? And I said, like, revenge of the nerds, kidding around. But do you think that's part of it is true, that what's driving this whole, whether it's the Me Too generation, listen, there was a problem, but it was wildly overcorrected for, right? But this whole idea that everyone should get a trophy, that there should be no winners, that it's like, do you think it's being driven somehow by the tech age and the people that are in positions of power, or coincidental? You think it's not really?
No, I think it's just coincidental that the last 30, 40 years, to be a nerd has been popular. Before that, it wasn't popular.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It wasn't, But I mean,
do you think that plays a role in what's going, like with the rules of information right now?
Yeah,
like,
correct.
What's allowed to happen, what's not, what they consider bullying, what's not. I mean, I had a guy named Patrick Bet David. You know Patrick Bet David? Very sharp guy, and he was on my podcast. He goes, I think a little bit of bullying is good. And I at first said, I don't really agree with that. But I said, I guess to a certain point, not bullying, but, kids can't live in a bubble when they grow up and then expect to go into the real world and survive, right? What are your thoughts on that?
No. Well, I'm considered a bully now, okay, at 74. And if they think I'm a bully now...
They should have seen you when you were 54?
No. Between 24 and 54, I was a psychopath. Okay?
In what sense?
No, I mean, if you didn't get shit done, rumor has it that I pulled people across the table like this, investment bankers, and choked them. Okay?
They probably deserved it, though.
Well, they did. You're absolutely correct. But I will neither confirm or deny.
And we're better off for it afterwards.
Yeah. It made me feel good to choke the little shit. But today, if you raise your voice, geez, I mean, we had at my seminar, and I'm not bragging about this, in the last two seminars, we had two guys pass out just from stress. Fell over and hit their head on the floor from stress.
Because the words you were saying.
No, because I'm a hard guy, and I make them accountable. You're fucking late. You're out. Don't come back. You can't be late. You're either early or don't come. And so the kids today, their parents never made them accountable. And their grandparents apparently didn't make their parents accountable. One of the questions I asked is, how many of you have kids in the audience? Yeah, half. And I said, would you want your kids to grow up and be like you? No hands go up. Would you want your kids to grow up and be like your parents? No hands go up. And then somebody raises their hand, yeah. I had a grandparent that fought in the Second World War that I hear was a real hard ass. I'd like to be like him, and I'd like my kids to be like him. They already know that they're setting
intuitively.
Absolutely.
What do you think is at the root of all this?
Well, the root of all is that again, they want to fit in, and the guys want to get their dick wet. Okay. I got more ass.
Which is a very noble pursuit.
Yeah. But I got more ass than a toilet seat at a bus station.
Right? Me too.
I mean,
thank God for that.
I fucked everything that walked. Okay, if it was female.
Really?
Okay?
I did my best dating after I was married, but that's besides the point. Anyway.
And they used to say Dan would fuck a snake if he held his head still. Now that's a bit of an exaggeration. Kids, don't follow.
Hold on, Bowen, write that one down for me. I'm going to steal that one. I'm stealing Dan Peña's line, and I will give you credit, but I'm stealing that line. Keep going.
Yeah. Right. But now, one of the things that I asked them, what did you do that scared yourself last week? And they write down, I asked the girl for a phone number at the gym. Are you shitting me? What? I mean, how in the hell does that scare anybody? You know, it's beyond belief. But a lot of girls, I held a girl's door open for a few weeks ago, and she brushed against me. She says, "I'm sorry for invading your personal space." And I didn't know what that meant. I had asked my wife, "What does that mean?" I didn't grab her tits or anything. What the hell? I mean, how is she invading my personal space? A lot of the phrases I don't understand because the few guys that I still associate with don't talk like that.
Yeah.
I had dinner with a guy that's known me since I'm 10 years old last night, and his wife just passed away, unfortunately. And so we were talking about the new generation. He was talking about his granddaughter, 14-year-old granddaughter. I don't get it. I just don't. I just stay away. She's not interested in my advice. She's not interested in my input, and so I just stay away. When I now you're 15, 20 years younger than I am, but when I was growing up, I was interested in somebody else's opinion. Older, I might not have done it. Okay, stay out of trouble. Don't get drunk. You know, but I might not have done that, but at least I got the input. But I was raised. You are seen and not heard. If my father told me to stand there right there short of a tsunami knocking me down, I didn't move.
Right.
Until I could see he's not watching me. Then I'd move.
Let's talk solutions.
Okay.
What do you think? Because I agree with you. You know, obviously at some points you're a bit more, I think in some ways, I think you're a little bit more extreme. In some ways I'm more extreme. But generally, I think I really agree with your whole thesis on what's going on in the world. The question is, what do you do about it? Like, how do you make? I try every day with my stuff. You know my stuff. I'm sure you've seen it. I try to instill like an empowered message with people, and I do try to watch my words. I'm not one to, I'm fucking not politically correct, but I try at least a little bit just to, not to, because I know sometimes you catch a bit more flies with honey than vinegar. But my honey's pretty vinegarish. But what do you think the way to correct this? I think the world is heading for a very, very dangerous fall right now.
No, we're through.
Yeah.
And there is no turning back.
Past the point of correction?
No, we're way past it. We've been past it a long time.
How long have we passed it, you think?
30 years ago. 30 years ago. Now, I'm not talking about the world ending when the sun envelops the Earth 4.8. Okay, but we've got 2 or 3 more generations, maybe to the 23rd century, but we're through. I mean, the Romans had their day. All these dynasties had their day, and then they were through. And we've been, we've had the United States has had a good run since 1776 to now, 30, 40 years ago. But one of the reasons, love him or hate him, President has changed the financial world forever. Okay, full disclosure, I knew President Trump.
Me too.
Okay, in another lifetime, but he is.
I voted for him.
Okay, so did I. He's a hard ass.
Everyone knows that.
He's a hard ass. And he holds people accountable. And he's not afraid to make cabinet position changes. I mean, he's made more position changes in the cabinet level than I think the last 3 or 4 presidents. and he doesn't give a shit what they think.
We call that pivoting in the business world.
Yes,
right?
correct. That's exactly right. And the president does that. But we're past it. And I think that I said before you walked in, Hitler was killing the wrong people. Why kill the smart Jews? I mean, we need about 2 billion people on the earth instead of 7 billion. Most people born should have rolled down their mama's leg. Most people born shouldn't have never been born.
The question is, which people, though? How do
Well,
you
I mean,
choose?
if you're in power, you want to be the ones that survive. And it's not IQ, it's initiative. I would rather have a guy with a lower IQ but a lot of initiative than the opposite.
So this goes back to what I was saying about the survival of the unfittest. Like, I really believe right now that the world is upside down. I don't believe that we're in. Maybe that's what you told me. You say we're through, we're done. I think it's almost like we reverse the natural order of the way things should be, where the strong survive, the weak perish. Intellect is favored, strength is favored. But now it just seems like it's the opposite is true. And I guess I don't. When I say the vengeance, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck went wrong, like because I can't stop thinking about this when it really started.
Well, you must be more intellectual than I am, because I don't give a fuck what went wrong. I mean, we are where we are, and there's no return. And
I have insomnia. That's why. So I don't think about it. So I think of
so-
something.
So you and I will be long gone by the time some asshole figures it out.
Yeah. And so let's talk solutions. What do you think in terms of the human condition? Is there any way, maybe not to correct it, is there a way to improve it, to slow it down, to slow down the demise of Western civilization? Because I think China's taken over the fucking world, by the way.
Yeah.
Although you never really know, because like we said about Japan in the 80s, and look what fucking happened to Japan, right?
Well, I mean,
Remember when everything was Japan,
absolutely,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
And so you
Well,
never
I
know.
mean, everybody knows that the Chinese have been fucking us for 50, 60 years.
Right.
And when President Trump comes in and tries to do something about it, or has done something about it, everybody cries.
Crazy.
Of course, there's going to be collateral damage, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the
collateral
craziest
damage.
thing, I know.
Yeah.
So do you think the Chinese are really headed to really be dominant in the world?
Yes, but not dominant in the sense that everybody's concerned about. They're never going to go to war with us.
They're not a war. They've never attacked anyone.
Exactly. I was just
Ever.
going to say that.
It's a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
Folks fucking worry about China.
In
They've never attacked anybody.
In 10,000 years, they never attacked anybody. Yeah, correct.
Crazy.
But
Why does no one else say this? Because it's so obvious.
Because
It's just weird.
It doesn't reinforce
The narrative
liberal,
they want,
the
the
liberal
fucking narrative.
narrative.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure. It's fucked up.
The news does have a liberal bent.
Of course.
A
little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
And there's not that many hardline guys on the planet, and it's just unfortunate. But we've gotten used to it. It's become our comfort zone. It's become our comfort zone being not held accountable, because most people don't want to be held accountable. They want to be able to do whatever the hell they want when they want. And true leadership is me getting that person to do what I want them to do when the fuck I want them to do it. Not when he decides.
Is everyone hearing this now? I'm such a hard ass all the time. See, they're saying, everyone, because I'm just like that. I go fucking crazy. I demand, I'm willing to pay for excellence. I'll reward, but I'm fucking demand it, when I want it, because I'm a boss. That's what being a boss is about.
They don't want to be a boss. They want to be a friend.
Can I give you a different take on this?
Sure.
Thing? I think it creates a huge opportunity for people to make money.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at this thing and say, you know what, it's felt, let me cut through the shit like a fucking knife through butter. You could actually empower someone to become uber successful in a fraction of the time, because there's so many weak people's weakness out there. You agree with that, right?
Yes. I just got an email before I came over here from a 22-year-old recently graduated from University of Washington, aerospace engineer. He did his first deal, $1.5 million. It closed yesterday evening. I had dinner or a drink with him the night before, and I said, you got to do the takeaway close. I said, tell him to fuck off and walk to the door, and it'll close. And then I crossed my fingers and said, if he does it right, it'll work. If he doesn't, it's going to blow up in his face, okay? And email, he says, I did the hard close, Mr. Pena, and it worked. He melted at the table. Or tell him, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, asshole. And so I mean, I get off on that. I mean,
sound a little familiar, Bo? We just did that last week with someone that was like saying, no. I'm like, tell them to go fuck off. 30 seconds later, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Correct.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but today, and my kids, I call everybody kid because I'm either old enough to be a grandfather or father. My kids that have used your stuff say it's good. I've never used it. I'm a hammer closer. I'm not a finesse closer. I either beat you to death at the table. I've seen the sun go down and come up at a coffee table.
No, you use it but you use it automatically. In other words, what I teach is it's not magic. It's the truth about persuasion. So I find the greatest salesman in the world. You've never studied it, but if you study, you say, "Oh shit, fuck, I know that exactly." That's why I'm so good at what I do. I think there's basic truths about selling, and for that matter, running business. There's certainly basic core truths that just run through it. Let me ask you. I don't want to. You're beyond like steps for success, but like just if you could really break it down, like if you're the average kid out there,
average schmuck kid,
but give me like what's the plan, the 5-10 step plan?
Laser beam focus.
Laser beam focus.
Okay,
step one.
Focus on the few, not the many. Focus on the few, not the many. Meaning, most of the kids or most of the adults have got 4 or 5 projects, none of which are worth a shit. Okay, and so they're trying to make them all work because they're afraid to walk away because they spent too much time developing it. The great thing about the internet is the results are instantaneous. Yet the kids work on apps and programs and write code, not for an hour, a week, a month, but years. And they get no results. Your results are instantaneous. Most of the programs don't work. So focus on the few, not the many. Laser beam focus and absolute 1,000% total commitment and willing to make personal sacrifices. And the kids don't want to make any sacrifices now. You know, the
putting your back to the wall, basically, right?
Correct. I had no plan B until I was 60 years old. I spent 125% of every fucking dollar I ever made. If I made $1 million, I spent $1,250,000. If I made $10 million, I spent $12.5 million. Okay. 1 year I made $100 million, and I spent $125 million. Okay.
For shits and giggles.
But yeah, at 60, my wife and I sat down, and he says, "I think we should downsize, and stop all that." And I had a lot of stuff. Okay. Most of which I didn't use. We had a lot of houses and shit that we never went to. And I don't believe in plan B because if you have a plan B, you'll use it.
What I used to say to the kids, they walk in the firm, and I would say, if you're trying to become $1 million producer and trying to learn my system, if you're looking at the fucking help wanted section right now for a part-time, any exit, get the fuck out now. You have no chance of succeeding. I want you to put your back to the fucking wall, make the consequences of failure so dire and unthinkable that you give yourself no choice but to succeed. That's
correct.
Missing from so many people these days, right? They want the exit room. They're half in, they're half out. They have their plan B. Fuck plan B, right? They can't be able to. What was it? Cortez came through the New World. What did he do? He burned his fucking ships, right? Why? No choice but to hack out an existence in the world. Otherwise, they say, fuck, the Indians got arrows. Get the fuck out of here, right? Same thing goes, right?
Well, the Romans did it when they came to the UK the second time. Caesar, Augustus, burned the ships. He said, we're going to conquer the Picts, which were the Scots, or we're going to die here, one or the other. And as it turned out, they did not conquer the Scots, and they built Hadrian's Wall across between Scotland and England, which remnants of it are still there. But the kids don't want to. Jack Welch says it better than I, because when I hear these questions about balanced life, I go fucking berserk.
Me too.
No, there's life choices and they have consequences, Jack says, which I agree. That's a nice way of saying, but there's no balanced life. You're either all in or you're not.
When you were in your 6 days of really seeking success, how many hours a week did you work?
115 to 120.
Do you even distinguish between work and not work, or you just worked?
No, I just
worked. Right?
There's a guy. This is the old Payne Weber, which became Payne Weber a long time ago. Yeah. Well, he told our children, and our children don't like hearing this. We used to have the security guards come in and drag your father out after 4 or 5 days living at his desk, bathing in the washroom, and having his secretary go get him clean underwear and clean shirts. And our kids, fuck, what is this shit? I lived in my office for 10 years straight. I lived in my office. And I don't consider it work. I'm still 50, 60 hours a week. Yeah. And I haven't had to work in 35 years. But if you're not doing something you like, it's a bitch.
Right.
It's a bitch.
Well, that was my next thought. I mean, to me, I don't distinguish between my work is my pleasure and my pleasure is my work.
Correct.
And success to me, it's not even about money. It's more about just being right. And I love the idea of figuring shit out. I'm almost happiest when I'm struck. My highest value is to try something, not get it right away, and have to work hard and then figure the shit out. And it's no better feeling than cracking the code after something doesn't work the first. I mean, this would be great if it does, but usually it doesn't, right?
Correct.
But I love that feeling of failing and then succeeding.
Well, I mean, success is on the razor's edge of failure. Ross Perot told me that many years ago. And he's gone away now in the last few months.
He was an amazing guy too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
An earlier version of
a little guy.
An earlier version of Trump, by the way, in a sense that he was straight talking, didn't have the charisma. He lacked the charisma of Trump.
We were at the Houstonian many years ago, and we're standing at the bar. And the Houstonian used to be the place, the meat market for hookers, high-priced hookers.
Where's that? Where's
the Houstonian in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Okay. And Ross used to drink sarsaparilla. I'm not even sure what that is.
It's
but,
like some sort of like root beer.
Yeah, some shit. And
The
so
Old
really
West.
two tall, slinky-looking girls were saying, hey, shorty, you want to buy us a drink? And so now everybody in the bar knew it was Ross Perot except these two bimbos. Okay? And you can't say bimbo anymore. It's unbelievable.
I can say bimbo.
No, I do
Fucking
too.
bimbos.
Okay, and so he pulled his wallet out of his back pocket. He had an old-fashioned wallet, and he dropped it on the floor, and then he put his foot on it. Whenever I'm feeling short, I stand on my wallet.
And I'm fucking 8 feet tall.
Correct. But he was a real personality.
No, he was an amazing. It was EDS. Was his
Yeah,
company.
correct.
Amazing.
He became the largest shareholder of General Motors.
Brilliant fucking
He only
guy.
lasted a few months there because he said they were so mismanaged with idiots.
Too much straight talk, right? He's a straight talker. I mean, in some ways, he was a lot like Trump in the sort of, very different in terms of his communication style.
Yeah.
But he did have his own flair to him that when he spoke sense. He just made common sense. I remember that. I remember watching him in the campaign, the debates, and he did great the first one, but then something, I think he established, you know what it was? Nowadays, you have the ability to speak directly to the people through things like Twitter, social media. So Trump has mastered the art of circumventing the traditional media, which is, as you said, liberally biased, massively liberally biased. And also, they just have their own narrative. They're not going to let someone anti-establishment take over. Trump was able to cut through that bullshit using social media. Ross Perot couldn't. On some levels, probably why he couldn't get as far. Just my opinion.
No. Well, I mean, and he still got 23% of the vote.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a spoiler.
Yep. And he spoiled Bush 1's second term.
Step one, step two. Step one was to be focused on the few, not the many.
No,
Or the
laser beam focus.
One, yeah.
Okay, focus on the few, not the many. And you got to be all in, total commitment. And at all costs, there is no plan B. And the not last but not least, the fact that you're not going to succeed the first time. Rarely do you succeed the first time.
I'm a big believer in that.
Okay,
Right.
it could be the 5th time, the 25th time.
It's called failing elegantly. You got to learn how to fail in business as much
Yeah.
as succeed, right?
Yeah. I wasn't too good at failing elegantly.
Not the first time, me neither.
Yeah.
I failed miserably the first time.
Yeah, and I'm considered a roll-up guy, but the first roll-up I tried in 1981 was a colossal failure.
Which was what? What did you do?
At the London Stock Exchange, I tried to roll 15 energy companies together, and it was the week before Princess Di married Prince Charles.
Uh-huh.
And it just collapsed. All the support.
Foreboding for their marriage.
Yeah, and the aftermarket didn't exist. So then I came back 3.5 years later with a big success, and more or less that's what I'm remembered for. But I remember paying the bills, the professional fees that I had that I couldn't afford to pay for the next 2.5 years. That I contemplated walking away from, but I wound up paying them. But it took me 2.5 years, so the kids today don't want to feel that pain. I've had the privilege of working with some of the Lakers. I've had the privilege of working with Olympic athletes, and one of the kids says, "I'm going to go to the Olympics." To do what? To sit on a bench or to get a gold medal? I mean,
If I just make it there, it's an accomplishment.
yeah, well, fuck that. It's like now the kids run marathons for the experience.
They want to finish. If I just finish,
Yeah.
it's an accomplishment.
I ran my first marathon. I ran 3 hours. My first marathon, and now they run in 5, 6, 7 hours. I can walk it in 6.5 hours. I mean, it's unbelievable for the experience. And if that's all the experience you want out of life, to be able to roll in a 7 or 8 hour marathon, I mean, metaphorically speaking, my lawyers tell me I got to say, you ought to take a gun like this and do it right. Don't fuck it up. Put it in the roof of your mouth.
Put yourself out of your own misery,
Yeah.
basically.
I've had kids blow the side of their face off. They can't even blow their brains out right.
It's very dangerous. It's a bad way to commit suicide because you can't go here because you might ricochet off the skull and not
Yeah.
do it, right? Or lawyer says to just metaphorically
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
speaking, yeah, of course. We don't want anyone to do that here. That would be
No,
bullying
no.
and
Everybody deserves to have a life. Everybody deserves to be alive.
I saw a video which is fucking classic. Obviously, the Florida thing that what was that? I couldn't understand all the words. What exactly happened? This fucking
Oh, the
idiot,
kid. I went and grabbed it.
What I couldn't understand. It was hard for me to understand.
He was a kid from South America who was there on a journalism scholarship at the University of Florida, and I'm in the Q&A part, and I'm there free, and there's about 350, 400 people, and it came to him, they passed him the mic, and he said, Mr. Pena, I've done my research, and he basically said what I've done, I didn't do, okay? So I let him finish the question. I got up from my bar stool I sit on for Q&A, and I walked towards him, and I went and I pulled the mic away from him. Now, if there weren't so many cameras, I would have crushed his head right there. But a lot of cameras. Everybody's got a fucking iPhone now. You know.
Dangerous. I know.
Yeah.
The good old days, we could do whatever we wanted.
Yeah. And so I took it away from him. And then what they didn't show is pandemonium broke out.
Right, they actually cut away from that for some reason.
Correct. And there was 2 or 3 little guys that were with him, and there was 350 guys that wanted them out.
Right.
Okay. And some of these guys were big, and so the police came in, and much to their credit, they said, sir, we have no control. If you just step outside the classroom, out there in the open ground, you can continue your talk because, but we have to shut this thing down in here.
Sure.
And so I did. I stepped outside. And I finished the Q&A outside to the people that stayed and asked questions. But he said clearly that all the things I have accomplished that I didn't. But that was
what was his basis for doing it?
No, his basis was that he thought that I went public and my financial career was based in New York, but it was based in London. Because I went to London in the early 80s. So I was public on the London Stock Exchange, not the New York Stock Exchange.
Got it.
Okay? And he didn't connect those dots. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But he said,
You seem like an asshole, though.
He was.
He was just an asshole looking to, create controversy and, sort of be, it was like his moment as an investigative journalist, right?
Yeah, and in fact, that's what and then
I figured as much,
Then
right?
he sold, he had an ebook that was for sale that he used that little clip to promote his ebook. Which I never saw.
Maybe he's not as stupid as we thought.
No, maybe not.
Maybe he's actually no.
Yeah.
He was an idiot. The kid. It just seemed ridiculous. Also disrespectful. I think that. By the way, I think there is something to just you can be tough and still be respectful to someone. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. You just like a fucking dweeb in my opinion. He deserved the proverbial smack.
Yeah.
The proverbial smack, not a physical smack. That would be bad, right?
Yeah.
But it's certainly a verbal smackdown he deserved, right? What freaks me out though is that was a one minor thing. But what do you think about like when in Stanford they shut down conservative speakers coming onto campuses? To me, that seems A, un-American, B, unhealthy, and C, they're losing out on hearing both sides of a story. What do you make of it? How is that allowed?
Well, I mean, I had a similar experience at the University of Toronto. The guy, Pedersen, who is a...
Jordan Peterson.
Peters, that's his name, okay.
He's not well liked by the university.
No. Well, he's a full professor there, and he's got tenure, so they can't get rid of him. But they disrupted his class. They set his class on fire and did some other stuff. And so I spoke 3 weeks later, and they called my office, and they said we would, one, have him consider not speaking. 2, if he does speak, he should have personal security.
You don't strike me as the type that needs security.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
so,
I think as much.
No. So I showed up, and I'm carrying a cricket bat on the podium, and I put the cricket bat down on the podium like this, and I spoke, and they couldn't have been nicer to me. During the Q&A, somebody said, Mr. P, do you mind if we ask, what's a cricket bat for? I looked around, and I told them what I'm telling you about personal security, and they still didn't get it. So then I jumped down off the podium with the cricket bat, and I got this close to him. And I said, do you understand what the cricket bat's for? And he still didn't get it. And some people in the back of the audience got it. He's going to fucking hit you with it, you idiot. And I said, the idea is, even though there's 400 plus here, the first 5 or 6, I'd decapitate them, and that would keep the rest of you back. Then they got it. But then the next 4 or 5 questions later, they said, would you really do that? I said, you goddamn right I would, It's not a joke to me. And during the cocktail hour, and they had, and they couldn't have been nicer on top of it. During the cocktail hour, I got the question 10, 12, 15 times, would you really hit one of us? You fucking A right I would have. I mean, you have no idea. And so, but the kids, they think, I don't know what they thought. You know, an old man with a cricket bat. I had a cricket bat. I spoke in London just a few days ago, 1,000 people. It's the first time I had spoken outside the castle in 20 years, and at the Heathrow Airport, and I brought a cricket bat. But I had security. I had 20 paid big goons for security. My wife says, "You're 74 now. Maybe you can't hit." No, I can still hit him with a cricket bat. And so, but I still got questions asked.
It's in like the leg. You could still get a good like.
Yeah. Would you
whip
really
effect.
hit somebody? And I said, of course, now I'm old. And I said, I feared for my life. You can get away with a lot of shit. You're not old enough yet. Okay, 20 years, there's people shooting people. You know, I feared for my life. I don't fear for my life, but I might say it in court that I fear for my life.